We transition to our guest, Mr. Ted Cruz, former Solicitor General from the great state of Texas, current candidate for the Republican nomination to run for Senate. Mr. Cruz, thanks for joining us on Topline.
Great to be with you, John.
So, Republicans have a shot, probably a very good shot, of taking over the Senate. If you win this nomination, you'll have a good shot to be part of a new Republican majority. How is a Republican majority any different? I mean, you're going to come in and shake this up, or are you going to be one of those freshmen that kind of listens to leadership and kind of goes along, and maybe we'll see you do something a few years in?
Well, John, you put your finger on exactly what the question is here in Texas in the primary. It is almost certain the next senator from Texas will be a Republican. And the main difference between me and my principal opponent, the lieutenant governor, is whether the next senator from Texas is a strong conservative and a fighter, which I am, or whether the next senator is going to be another go-along-to-get-along establishment Republican. In my view, the stakes are too grave. Texas needs to be leading the fight. And that's exactly what I'm running for, not to play quietly and sit in the back row, but to help lead the fight to dramatically shrink the size, power, and spending of the federal government and to stop the Obama agenda.
Now, have you already started to reach out to some of these other folks elected in 2010 from the Tea Party, whether it's Mike Lee or Marco Rubio, those folks, to say, maybe we'll get together and be something of a team on this?
Well, I have, and right now in the U.S. Senate, I think the four strongest conservatives in the U.S. Senate are Senator Jim DeMint and Senator Mike Lee and Senator Rand Paul and Senator Pat Toomey. And I am incredibly honored and humbled to be the only candidate in the country that all four of them have endorsed. And the reason the four of them have endorsed me, every one of them said, we need reinforcements. We need a strong fighter. And what's happening nationally, 2010 was the first part of it, 2012 is the second part of it, is a battle for the heart and soul of the Republican Party. Are Republicans going to stand for free market principles and limited government in the Constitution? And I think we're seeing a new generation of leaders rising up in the Republican Party that are doing just that.
Well, let me ask you on that question about Rick Perry. He's obviously running for president. Some conservatives have raised questions about his record down in Texas, whether it be on immigration or on the HPV vaccine, or even on taxes, being somebody who voted for the largest tax increase in Texas history back when he was a Democrat. What's your sense? Is Rick Perry one of those real true to the core conservatives? What do you make of his record?
Well, I am enthusiastically supporting Rick Perry for president. The day he announced, I endorsed him. And the reason I did then and I am now supporting him is because I thought and think he's the strongest conservative who can win the nomination. You know, the last few weeks there have been some challenges, but in any campaign there are going to be some challenges, and I continue to support him. I continue to also think that Republicans are unified in wanting to find the strongest candidate to stand up against President Barack Obama and to defend free market principles, limited government, and the Constitution.
Well, Mr. Cruz said that you said challenges, but this isn't simply the challenges that he's had with some of his debate performances. We're talking about real substantive policy issues, the immigration issue being one of those. Can you tell us how that issue plays in Texas? Is this something that you would support? Namely, this is allowing undocumented immigrants access to higher education at the levels in-state tuition. Is this something that you support? And how do you think this plays out nationally for a candidate who's running in a conservative primary?
Sure. There are a number of issues on which I disagree with Rick Perry, and in-state tuition for illegal immigrants is one of them. I don't agree with him on that. And I think most Texans don't agree with him either. I think that's a position where, to my mind, we have a crisis with illegal immigration. We need to get serious about securing the border, and it doesn't make any sense to give special preferences and privileges to those who are here illegally. Now, I'll also note my principal opponent, the lieutenant governor, made news by publicly criticizing Rick Perry for in-state tuition. What Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst didn't mention is that before he was against in-state tuition for illegal immigrants, he was for it. He's been on both sides of that issue, just like he's been on both sides of taxes and of spending and of a host of issues. And that's exactly why people are tired of candidates that put their finger in the air and see which way the wind is blowing. People are looking for strong, principled conservatives who are ready to fight. And that's exactly why I'm running.
Now, when you mentioned the four top conservatives in the Senate, you didn't mention Marco Rubio, but I just want to ask you, you're sometimes compared to Marco Rubio, but you both have families who came over from Cuba before the 59 revolution. What is your sense of this latest story, you know, the Washington Post story that suggested that he had been, you know, basically fabricating his family background by calling himself the son of exiles?
Well, I think the Washington Post piece was a hit piece, and I think it was silly and it was predictable. In my opinion, Marco Rubio's election in 2010 was the most important election in the country in 2010. And in fact, a great many people have been comparing the Texas Senate race between me and David Dewhurst to that race in 2010 between Marco Rubio and Charlie Crist. Both of us have parents who fled oppression, who came here with nothing, seeking the American dream. You know, it's interesting, just like the Post did a hit piece, the Dallas Morning News this past week has been going after me on the exact same issues, and for whatever reason, it seems, establishment moderate candidates, hand in hand with some in the mainstream media, like to go after strong, conservative, Hispanic senators or candidates, and right now David Dewhurst is pushing the story that is attacking my dad, and the reason is our campaign's getting extraordinary momentum, and he doesn't want the scrutiny on his own record of flip-flopping and not standing for conservative principles.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ted Cruz, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail, seeing you back on Topline.
Amy, it's great to be with you.